So let's talk about Mars in Libra. Mars entered Libra on August 6th and will be there until August 22nd. Now, what does that even mean? First of all, Mars is the planet that influences our drive, our passion, our frustration, our tension, and essentially what drives us to behave in the ways that we do. Okay, this is a very masculine energy. This is about action. Okay, and with Mars being in the realm of Libra, for everyone, our actions are going to be centered around us figuring out how to act or how to operate within our drive to where we can either be diplomatic, we can be helpful, we can be fair. For some people, this may be, your actions or your drive and you learning not to be so hesitant or indifferent, or your actions being driven by, there's energy around your actions being driven by the love of convenience, right? So as Mars enters Libra, for everyone, right, that is what we'll be working on. Now, where we'll be working on that, where we will see these things pop up in our lives, depends on where Mars sits in your birth chart, okay? And which house Mars is in. The signs that will be most impacted by this are Aries rising, Gemini rising, Cancer rising, Leo rising, Libra rising, especially Libra rising, and Aquarius rising. Now, the way that you will look at this video is by looking at this by way of your rising sign, because your rising sign dictates where in your life this is going to pop up. Okay, so it is, if you're looking for the where this is going to pop up, then I would advise you to look at these videos based on your rising sign, but you are able to look at the video in regards to your sun sign and your moon sign as well. If you were to check for your sun sign, you would need to look at this from the guise of your ego, your pride, all right, how you act, how you present yourself to the world, okay? And then with your moon sign, if you're looking at this based on your moon, this will be around your emotions. This will be around your instincts and your intuition, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into the individual signs. All right, Aries. So you are one of the signs that is highly impacted by Mars in Libra. So I'm going to say this up front so that I don't keep repeating it, okay? For you, Mars is going to be working in your 7th house of long-term connections, long-term bonds, partnerships, marriages, legal contracts, enemies, law situations. That is your 7th house. Anything that kind of spans the test of time that requires your dedication. Okay, Mars is going to be in that house for you. So Mars being in Libra, as I said before, is going to be working on your diplomatic, helpful actions and behaviors. Okay, there are going to be lessons around that, and the lessons all depend on how much you are aligned. I'm going to go through these aspects fairly quickly, okay? So remember, that's what we're working on with Mars. All right, so Mars on August 8th is going to be talking to Uranus, the influencer over your independence, the influencer over like sudden change for you, okay? And Mars and Uranus are going to be working on your understanding around your curiosity or your shallowness as it relates to your mind or your communication, your perspectives, or your observations. On August 9th, okay, Saturn and Neptune are sitting in your 1st house of self. All right, this is where your identity is. This is where your ego is. Saturn represents the planet that influences your karma, that influences structure, responsibility, and discipline. And Saturn is in retrograde. So Saturn is already bringing back its own lessons. Saturn teaches us lessons and is giving us more lessons in retrograde. So as Saturn is retrograding on the 9th, it will talk to Mars And they both will help to bring understanding around your assertiveness or your impatience within yourself, your identity, your attitude, your pride, your ego, or your focus. Now, Neptune is sitting right on top of Saturn in that first house. And Neptune is the influencer over your imagination and your sensitivity. So Neptune and Saturn both will be working on your assertiveness or your impatience. Now, this is going to have an air of how your subconscious influences this. And this comes on or around the 9th of August. On August 10th, Mars is going to be communicating with Pluto, and Pluto is the influencer of your transformation and how you change, how you move on to things or from things, okay? And Pluto and Mars will be bringing you opportunities to help understand your originality or how different you are, or how you rebel within your community or your social space. On August 15th and August 18th, okay, Mars is going to be communicating with Mercury. Mercury will just have left retrograde. Look out for the video. It's going to drop right after this one on what you can expect after Mercury retrograde. However, on the 15th and the 18th, Mars is going to be communicating with Mercury, which is the influencer over your mind, your observation, your logic, and humor, okay? And Mars and Mercury are going to be working on your charisma or your arrogance within your realm of entertainment, your realm of self-expression. This is like your short-term dating. This is how you express yourself. This is, children, entrepreneurship, fun and games. Mercury is going to talk to Mars twice. So again, our actions are going to be centered around diplomatic and helpful behavior. Okay, so keep remembering that. Next, on September 5th, Mars will be talking to Jupiter, okay? And Jupiter is in your 4th house. Jupiter is the influencer over how we expand, how we develop, what we go out and seek. Now, Jupiter is in an energy that is not so compatible with the energy Mars is in. So Mars and Jupiter working together, this is going to bring you difficulty. Okay. And when I say difficulty, you're not really going to be sure about what it is or where it is you should lean as it relates to your behaviors. All right. And Jupiter and Mars are going to be working together to bring these difficulties, like further refine yourself within your perception or your moodiness within your home or your comfort or your privacy. There's something here that might actually trigger you on this day. And then on August 16th, Venus will be in your 5th house as well. And Venus is the influencer over our appreciation. Venus is the influencer over our harmony, peace, love, and abundance, relationships, and partnerships, okay? So Venus will be talking to Mars, and Venus will be assisting by bringing opportunities within your realm of self-expression or entertainment. Again, Venus is the ruler of peace, love, relationships, partnerships in that 5th house of dating and entertainment, right? So this is an opportunity here that comes for you, Aries, as it relates to how you express yourself within this realm of life, okay? And then after that, on the 22nd, Mars will move on to Scorpio. And we will be done with the Mars in Libra, okay? But again, the emphasis is diplomatic and helpful behavior, okay? Taurus, Mars just entered Libra in your 6th house. So Mars will be working on your diplomatic or indifferent nature as it relates to your daily life or your daily routines. So I'm going to explain it up front for you. Okay, this is like your actions, your behavior within your daily routines, within your duty, within your habits. Your actions need to be centered around peaceful behavior. Okay, peaceful, helpful, all right? And less about the convenience or hesitancy, okay? So let's jump into the actual aspects. so we can talk about, I'm not going to keep repeating what Mars is going to be working on. So remember that as I run through this. Peaceful behavior as it relates to your routines, your schedules, your duty, your healthy habits, peaceful behavior. All right, now let's get into it. On the 8th, Mars is going to be talking to Uranus, the ruler of changes in your life, sudden changes, your originality, your uniqueness. And this conversation between Uranus and Mars is going to help you understand your curiosity or your shallowness within your values or your resources, your material wealth, your lending and borrowing. This is your appetite for food or sex, and also your self-worth. On the 9th, Mars is going to be communicating with both Saturn and Neptune, which are in retrograde in your 12th house of your subconscious and your imagination. Saturn brings lessons around discipline, structure, to attain your ambitions and goals. And with Saturn in retrograde, this is bringing back energy that we've experienced earlier this year in April. Okay, same thing for Neptune. Neptune is sitting right on top of Saturn in that 12th house in retrograde as well. And Neptune rules your 12th house of Pisces. Okay, the 12th house is ruled by Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. So there's a heavy emphasis on your imagination or your subconscious, your shadow side, helping to bring lessons around how it is that you need to behave for your highest and greatest good. Okay, so this is again lessons around your assertiveness or your impatience as it relates to your shadow. Okay, as it relates to your illusion, delusion, confusion, whatever that is for you. On August 10th, Mars is going to be communicating with Pluto in your 10th house of Aquarius. Okay, so Pluto is in retrograde in Aquarius, and Pluto is going to be assisting Mars with helping you understand your behaviors around your originality or rebellion within your career, your ambitions, your goals, or your influence. Now, again, Pluto is in retrograde, so these are things that may come back from the past. And this is on or around August 10th. On August 15th and also August 18th, Mars is going to be communicating with Mercury. Mercury is the influence over your mind, over your humor, over your intelligence, over how you observe, okay? And Mercury is going to be helping to bring opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance within your home or your upbringing, your past, or your privacy as well. This will be both on the 15th and the 18th. Then as we cross into September, on September 5th, this is where the difficult energy enters, okay? So Mars is going to be talking to Jupiter in Cancer in your 3rd house. Jupiter is the influencer over how you develop, how you expand, okay? So with this square energy, this is going to actually bring difficulties for you around your perceptiveness or your moodiness. And this is within the realm of your mind and how you communicate, how you observe. And this could also be as it relates to the internet as well. And then on August 16th, the last conversation that Mars has in Libra will be with Venus. And Venus is the influencer over our appreciation, our harmony, peace, love, and abundance, our partnerships, our relationships, okay? And Venus will be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance within your daily life or routine, within your home or your privacy or your upbringing, your roots or your past. And with that, we get to the 22nd and Mars will transition into Scorpio. Gemini, Mars just crossed into Libra in your 5th house. Mars is the influencer over our action and our drive. This includes aggression, sex, our desire, courage, our passion, and our confidence. So Mars is going to be working on our action and our drive as it relates to our diplomatic or indifferent behaviors within the realm of life that centers around our entertainment and how we express ourselves, right? This is the 5th house. So this is your dating. This is short-term dating. This is children. This is entrepreneurship. This is fun and games. This is hobbies. Mars is going to be driving you toward having more diplomatic or helpful behaviors and maybe leaning less into convenience or indifference. And for some people, it might be the reverse, depending on how aligned you are within your behaviors as it relates to your birth chart. Okay, so for some people, you might need to lean more into indifference and hesitancy and less into being fair and diplomatic. It depends on what your chart looks like. And Gemini, you are one of the signs that is more heavily impacted by this Mars and Libra energy. So let's go ahead and jump into the individual aspects. On August 8th, Mars is going to be communicating with Uranus, the influencer over how you handle change, sudden change, independence, or your originality. And Uranus will be assisting by bringing understanding around your curiosity or your shallowness within yourself, your identity. Uranus is in your 1st house. Uranus just crossed into your 1st house. So you are already seeing a change within yourself, whether that's in your appearance, that's your ego, your pride, what it is that you're focusing on, right? There are some things that are shifting here for you, which is why this energy is a little bit more important for you. Okay, so as Mars enters into Libra, it talks to Uranus that just crossed into your 1st house. And you are going to be having energy that pops up into your life, like I said before, to help you understand your curiosity or imbalance around your identity, self-attitude, or focus. On August 9th, Mars is going to be talking to Saturn and Neptune in retrograde in your 11th house of Aries. Okay, so Saturn is the ruler or the influencer over your karma, cause and effect, your lessons, your structure, your discipline, okay? And Neptune is the ruler over your imagination and your subconscious, okay? So both of these planets are basically on top of each other, working together to get you to understand or bring balance to your assertiveness or your impatience as it relates to your community or your social nature and how you express yourself there or how you act within that realm of life for you. This is kind of like looking at your subconscious actions and how that may work or go against what it is that you are trying to achieve in your community. And with Mars in Libra, your behaviors need to either lean on being diplomatic or fair or being indifferent, or maybe hesitating before you actually do something. And also remember, Saturn and Neptune are in retrograde. So Saturn and Neptune might be bringing energy back from earlier this year around April sometime. Okay, so just pay attention to that. On August 10th, Mars is going to be talking to Pluto in your 9th house of Aquarius. Pluto is also in retrograde, and Pluto is the influencer over our transitions, our change, our transformation. So there is some sort of change happening as it relates to how you discover, how you expand. All right, and Pluto is going to be assisting Mars by helping you understand your originality or how you rebel within your exploration or your discovery. This could be religion, spirituality, travel for you. This could be a second life partner, higher education, law and ethics, right? Pluto and Mars are going to be working together to help you have either more fair and diplomatic behavior or hesitancy before actually acting within this realm. Then on August 15th and August 18th, Mars is going to be talking to Mercury that just left retrograde days prior, okay, which is why Mars is going to be talking to Mercury Mercury twice. Mercury is going to be in a slow phase because it just left retrograde, then it's going to take off. So Mars will pass Mercury, then Mercury will pass Mars again, right? Which is why they're having a conversation within 3 days. All right, so from the 15th to the 18th, Mars is going to be communicating with Mercury in your third house, and Mercury is the influencer of your mind, how you observe, your humor, your intellect, and how you learn. And Mercury is going to be assisting Mars by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance within your mind or your communication or logic. So again, the underlying energy of this is Mars in Libra. So again, diplomatic behaviors, helpful behaviors, okay? Or you hesitating before you acting. Okay. And then on September 5th, this is where the difficult energy comes in. Okay. Because Jupiter is in Cancer in your second house. And Jupiter is going to be helping by bringing difficulties. And yes, I say helping by bringing difficulties around your perceptiveness or your moodiness within your resources, right? This is your material resources, your lending, your borrowing, right? So there's something here that's going to come as like a trigger. And again, the underlying energy of this is behavior that brings peace, or behavior that is helpful, behavior that is diplomatic, or maybe hesitating before you actually react to something, right? Again, there's a trigger that is intentionally happening here to help you learn how to behave under pressure, essentially, okay? And then last but not least, Mars is going to be talking to Venus on September 16th. All right. And Venus is going to be in your third house. And Venus is the ruler of your appreciation. Venus is the ruler of your harmony, peace, love, abundance, partnerships, relationships. Okay. And Venus is going to be helping by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance within your mind or communication, because again, this is the same house that Mercury was in. And after that, Mars will go on and transition into Scorpio on September 22nd. So that'll be it. Cancer, Mars crossed into your fourth house of Libra. Okay, Mars is the ruler and influencer over our action or our drive. All right, this is our aggression. This is our desire. This is our adventurous nature. This is our strength. This is our confidence and the courage that we have. Okay, so as Mars crosses into Libra, Mars is going to be working on our fair, diplomatic, helpful behavior. Or for some of us, Mars is going to be requiring our behavior to maybe think about hesitation before acting, or, think about convenience before acting. For some people, this may be actually don't think about hesitancy before acting. It depends on the person, right? It depends on where this sits in your chart. Again, Mars is going to be working on your diplomatic or indifferent behavior within your home or upbringing, your past. This is your privacy. This could be within your family as well, or like your physical home, like real estate. And Cancer, you are one of the signs that's actually more heavily influenced by this Mars in Libra energy. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the aspects. On August 8th, Mars is going to be communicating with Uranus in your 12th house of Gemini. Okay, Uranus is the ruler of changes and in how you are independent in your life. Okay, how unique you are. This could also be for you sudden changes. This is in your 12th house of your subconscious and your imagination. So Uranus is going to be helping Mars by bringing an understanding around your curiosity or your shallowness as it relates to your subconscious or your imagination. And that is going to be on August 8th. On August 9th, Mars is going to be communicating with Saturn and Neptune in your 10th house of your ambitions and your influence, okay? So your behaviors, again, lean towards peaceful, diplomatic, or helpful behaviors, okay? And as Mars talks to Saturn and Neptune in that 10th house, both of these planets are in retrograde. Saturn was at these degrees back in April. So Saturn is the influence of our karma, cause and effect. Okay, Saturn is the influence over our structure, our responsibility, our discipline. Saturn is a teacher. Saturn brings restriction. Okay, and then Neptune is the influencer over our imagination and our sensitivity. Okay, so with Saturn and Neptune being in this 10th house, you should already be seeing lessons coming back to you around your ambitions or your goals, your career, the influence that you have. And both Saturn and Neptune are going to be working to bring balance around your assertiveness or your impulsiveness as it relates to your ambitions or your goals. And then on August 10th, Mars is going to be communicating with Pluto in your 8th house of Aquarius. Pluto is the ruler of your transitions and your transformations. Okay, so change, there are changes. And the 8th house is ruled by Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto. Okay, so this means there are going to be changes happening, or there should already be changes that you see, some sort of transformation that's happening in your life. And Pluto is going to be, well, Mars is going to be helping Pluto by assisting and bringing understanding around your originality or how you rebel within your transitions. Meaning, like, if something is changing, you be like, oh, no, 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 I don't want that to change. Like, you're going to be forced to look at your nature and your behaviors when it is time for you to transition. And then on August 15th and 18th, right, Mercury just left retrograde, or will leave retrograde on the 11th of August, right? So Mercury is going to be moving very slowly at first, and then Mercury is going to speed up, which is why Mercury is going to talk to Mars twice in 3 days. So from the 15th through the 18th, there are interactions between Mars and Mercury in your 2nd house of Leo. Okay, so Mercury is the influencer over our mind, how we learn, our observations, our intellect, our humor. And Mercury will be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance within your resources, your material resources, your values. This is your self-worth. This is your finances. This is lending and borrowing for you. This is your appetite for food and pleasure. Excuse me. So again, Mars being in that leaning towards diplomatic, helpful, fair behaviors, right, is going to be helping to influence. Is going to be working with Mercury within this realm of life. Then next, we have square energy. All right, so this brings difficulties. All right, and this is going to be in your 1st house, which is why this is important for you, Cancer. This is in your house of self. This is where your identity lies. This is where your soul's purpose and your focus is. This is where your attitude, this is where your appearance lies as well. Now, there's going to be a conversation happening between Mars and Jupiter. Okay, and Jupiter is the ruler over how you develop, how you expand, how you go about in the world. And Jupiter will be assisting by bringing some difficult energy within yourself or your identity that kind of points to your moodiness or your perceptiveness within that realm of life for yourself. Now, this energy is going to be a little bit triggering on September 5th, okay, because it's square energy. And then last but not least, we have sextile energy, and this is a conversation between Mars and Venus. All right, Venus is the ruler of our appreciation, harmony, abundance, love, relationships, partnerships. And Venus will be in Leo, right? So Venus is going to be bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance as it relates to your values and your resources, the same realm of life Mercury was in. And once Mars talks to Venus, that will be the last conversation Mars has with any of the planets before transitioning into Scorpio on September 22nd. Leo. You are one of the signs that is more heavily impacted by this Mars and Libra energy. Mars has crossed into your 3rd house of Libra. All right, so Mars is the influencer over our action and our drive. This is the courage that we have. This is our desire. This is our adventurous nature. This is our strength and our confidence, okay? And Mars will be working on your diplomatic or indifferent behavior within your mind or how it is you communicate communicate, how it is you observe, how it is you take in knowledge. And this could even have like internet related energy around it as well. So let's jump into the individual aspects. On August 8th, Mars is going to be talking to Uranus in your 11th house of Gemini. Okay, Uranus is the ruler over sudden change in our life. Uranus is the influencer over our independence or our uniqueness, or also how we rebel. And Uranus is going to be assisting by bringing understanding around your curiosity or flexibility, or your shallowness within your social nature or your community. This is your friendships, this is your alliances, this is your social clubs. This could also be the stock market for some people, employer resources. Okay, so this communication happening between Mars and Uranus on the 8th is going to require you to lean more heavily into peaceful behavior that brings peace for you. And then on August 9th, both Saturn and Neptune are in your 9th house of Aries. And both of these planets are in retrograde. So they are bringing back energy from earlier in the year in April. All right. Saturn is the influencer over our karma, cause and effect, our structure, our responsibility, our discipline, how we achieve our goals. Okay. And then Neptune is the influencer over our subconscious and our imagination. Okay, so both of these planets are going to be working on how our subconscious and our imagination show up for us. Okay, and they're going to be helping Mars by bringing balance as it relates to our assertive or impatient behaviors within your exploration or your discovery. This could be, you know, a second life partner. This for you could be long distance travel, higher education, spirituality, religion, cultural learning. This could be ethics or law. All right, that's all 9th house energy. And then on August 10th, Mars is going to be communicating with Pluto in your 7th house of Aquarius. All right, so Pluto is the influence over our transitions and our change. Okay, so Pluto entering into your 7th house, there's some sort of change here as it relates to your long-term partnerships, marriage, you know, life partners, legal business contracts, enemies, anything that requires your dedication for long periods of time. Okay, Pluto is changing this for you, Leo. So Pluto is going to be working with Mars to bring understanding around how you rebel or your originality or how you change within your partnerships or your deep bonds. And then on August 15th through 18th, well, 15th and 18th, but I'm going to say through 18th because Mercury will just have left retrograde right before this, right? And Mercury is in that 1st house, Leo, for you. Okay, this is why this is important. Mercury was in retrograde in your 1st house, left retrograde, and out of retrograde, Mercury is going to spin in place for a hot second and then start moving forward. So Mercury is going to talk to Mars twice, okay? And Mercury is the ruler over our mind, our observation, how we take in knowledge, how we take in information, all right? And Mercury is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance, ego, pride within yourself or your identity. So again, your actions through all of this, right? Your actions within these realms of life need to lean more towards peace and harmony, helpful and diplomatic behaviors. I just want to make sure we are clear about that, okay? And then we have this square energy happening on September 5th when Mars is going to be talking to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is in Cancer in your 12th house. All right, Jupiter represents our development, our expansion. All right, this is opportunities for us within life. And Jupiter in this Cancer energy, you know, Mars and Jupiter may not be speaking the same type of language. So Jupiter is going to be assisting by bringing difficulties. Okay, so this is the square energy is going to be a more difficult energy for you to navigate because it's going to bring energy around your perceptiveness or your moodiness within your subconscious or your imagination. All right, so this is kind of like how your mind or how your subconscious, your or self-sabotaging habits bubble up into your pride and ego, right? So you're not really going to know how to behave in this moment because you're going to be triggered, okay? Essentially, that's what that is. Last but not least, on September 16th, Mars is going to be talking to Venus in that first house as well, okay? Venus will have crossed into Leo. All right, Venus is the ruler of our appreciation, our harmony, peace, love, abundance, relationships, partnerships, okay? And Venus will be assisting by bringing opportunities around, again, your charisma, your arrogance within yourself or your identity. And then after that conversation with Venus on the 16th, Mars will continue through Libra and cross into Scorpio on the 22nd, and that will be a whole nother conversation. Virgo, Mars just crossed into your second house of Libra. Mars is the influencer over our action and our drive. That includes our aggression, our desire, our nature for adventure, our passion, our strength, our confidence, okay? And with Mars crossing into Libra, right, in your second house, Mars is going to be working on your helpful or diplomatic behaviors as it relates to your values and your resources. This could be your self-worth. This could be lending and borrowing for you. This could be your appetite for pleasure and food. This for you could be your material resources as well. Okay, so remember that as we're going through this, the underlying energy of all of this is your diplomatic, helpful behavior. Okay, within your resources. Okay, and Mars is going to be working on that. All right, and then now we're going to talk about the conversation that Mars is going to be having with the other planets as Mars moves through Libra. The first conversation will be on August 8th, where Mars has a conversation with Uranus in your 10th house of Gemini. Okay, Uranus is the influence over sudden change for us. Uranus is the influence over our independence or our originality. And Uranus is going to be helping by providing understanding around your curiosity, flexibility, or shallowness within your ambitions and your goals, the influence that you have, the career that you have. And then on August 9th, both Saturn and Neptune are sitting in your 8th house of Aries. Both Saturn and Neptune are in retrograde on top of each other, okay? Both Saturn and Neptune are bringing lessons around your imagination, okay? So Saturn is the planet that influences your karma, cause and effect. The structure you have, the responsibility that you have, your goals, your ambitions, okay? And Neptune is the ruler over your imagination, your subconscious, and how that bubbles up into your life and impacts things, okay? So again, they're both in retrograde and they're bringing lessons from earlier this year, all right? Both Saturn and Neptune were in these degrees in April sometime, okay? So both Saturn and Neptune are going to be working on your assertiveness, your impatience, or your impulsiveness as it relates to transitions and transformations that happen in your life, all right? This could be wills, bonuses, shared resources. This is secrets or your past, okay? And then on August 10th, Mars is going to be having communication with Pluto, which is also in retrograde, okay? And Pluto is sitting in your 6th house of daily life, your daily routines, your daily habits, okay? And this is in the realm of Aquarius for you. Pluto is the influencer over how we transition, how we changed, how we transform, okay? And Pluto is going to be assisting Mars by bringing understanding around how you rebel or how unique you are or the originality that you have within your daily life routine or habits. And again, the emphasis for all of these aspects, the underlying energy here is behavior that brings peace, diplomacy, or helpfulness, okay? And then next, we have from the 15th through the 18th, right? Mercury is going to be talking to Mars, okay? Mercury is in your 12th house of Leo, and Mercury will have just a few days prior left retrograde. Okay, I'm talking about August 11th. All right, and on the 15th through the 18th, Mercury is spinning place, and then it'll start to move quickly, right? So that's why Mercury is having a conversation on the 15th and the 18th, and it's likely still, the aspect is still going to be valid throughout that whole time. And Mercury is the ruler of your mind, how you observe, how you take in information, okay? And Mercury is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance within your realm of subconscious, your imagination, illusion, delusion, confusion, right? This, and again, your actions need to fall on diplomacy, helpful, peaceful actions, diplomatic actions, all right? And then on September 5th, Mars is going to be talking to Jupiter in Cancer in your 11th house. Now, this is going to be a little bit more of a difficult energy because this is a square, right? So basically, Mars and Jupiter are not speaking the same type of language, right? They're not understanding, they're not comprehending the conversation that they are having, right? So Jupiter is the ruler over your development and your expansion, and Jupiter will assist by bringing difficulties around your perceptiveness or your moodiness within your community or your social nature. All right. So you're going to see things pop up within your social realm. And it might be a little bit triggering for you because it's square energy. And then last but not least, we have this last conversation between Mars and Venus in your 6th house of Leo. Okay. In your 12th house of Leo. Okay. So Venus is the ruler over our appreciation, peace, love, abundance, harmony, relationships, partnerships, okay? And Venus will be assisting by bringing opportunities around, again, similar to what Mercury did, your charisma, arrogance, within your subconscious or your imagination, illusion, delusion, confusion, right? And again, Venus likes to bring peace. All right, so this is sextile energy, opportunities. And after Mars has this conversation with Venus, Mars will truck it along in Libra and cross into Scorpio on September 22nd, and that will be a whole nother conversation. Libra, you are one of the signs, obviously, that will be impacted by Mars crossing into Libra because Mars crosses into your 1st house. Now, Mars is the influencer over our action, our drive. This is our aggression, our courage, our desire, the strength that we have, the boldness that we have, right? And Mars crossing into Libra, that means that our action, our drive needs to lean more towards diplomatic, helpful, fair, peaceful behavior. Okay, so this for you is going to be within yourself, your identity, your appearance, your focus, right? Because this is in your 1st house. All right. So again, Mars will be in your 1st house from August 6th through September 22nd. So let's jump into the actual aspects. Okay. So remember, Mars, the ruler over our action and our drive, is going to require us to kind of lean into fair, diplomatic, helpful, peaceful behaviors. All right. So think about that when I talk about the conversations between the planets. Okay. So on August 8th, Mars is going to be having a conversation with Uranus, and Uranus is in Gemini in your 9th house. Okay. So Uranus is the ruler over our change, our sudden change, our independence, our rebellion. All right. And Uranus is going to be helping by improving your understanding around your curiosity or your shallowness within your exploration or discovery, meaning like how you go out and explore, long-term travel. This for you could be school, higher education, law, ethics, spirituality, religion, all the things we explore. Okay. On August 9th, both Saturn and Neptune are in retrograde in your 7th house of Aries. Okay, so Saturn is the ruler over our karma, cause and effect. Saturn is the ruler over our discipline, our restriction, our structure, right? And Neptune is the ruler over our imagination and our subconscious, okay? Our sensitivity, right? So with Neptune and Saturn in retrograde on top of each other in your 7th house, right, of Aries, Saturn and and Neptune are going to be working with Mars to bring you lessons around your assertiveness, impulsiveness, or impatience within your partnerships or your deep bonds, your long-term connections. Okay. And then on August 10th, right, Mars is going to be talking to Pluto in Aquarius, which is also in retrograde in your 5th house. All right. So Pluto is the planet that influences our transition, our change, how we transform. Okay. So Pluto has been in Aquarius for like a year now. All right. So there's some sort of change as it relates to your entertainment or your self-expression or your hobbies, children, how you date, right? And Pluto is going to be assisting Mars by helping you understand your originality, right? Your social nature, your logical nature within how you express yourself, within how you entertain yourself, okay? And then up next, Mars is going to be having a conversation with Mercury. Now, these are going to be 2 separate conversations, one on the 15th, one on the 18th, but it'll be the 15th through the 18th, okay? And Mercury will have just left retrograde. You hear retrograde, 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 right? Mercury will just have left retrograde a few days prior, August 11th, all right? So Mercury is the planet that rules over our mind, our observation, our logic, how we take in information. Okay, so these 2 conversations over these couple of days between Mars and Mercury, right? Mercury is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance within your community or your social nature. And then Mars is going to be having a conversation with Jupiter on September 5th, okay? Now, this energy is a little bit more difficult because Mars and Jupiter won't be talking the same type of language, okay? Because Cancer and Libra energy don't really mesh that well, right? So that's why this is square. So Jupiter is the ruler over how we develop higher education, religion, you know, all that stuff, right? And how we expand our opportunities that come to us. So Jupiter is going to be assisting by providing difficulties around your perceptiveness or your moodiness within your ambitions or your influence, okay? So this energy is going to be energy that kind of feels triggering. It's not going to feel the greatest, and you're not really going to know what to do on or around September 5th. Okay, so that's the difficult energy. And then once you pass that on September 16th, Venus is going to be having a conversation with Mars in that same house, 11th house that Mercury was just in. Okay, Venus is the ruler over our appreciation, our harmony, peace, love, abundance, our relationships, our partnerships, right? Is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma again, or your arrogance within your social nature, within your community. And then once Mars has this conversation with Venus, okay, that'll be the last conversation Mars has with any of the planets before transitioning into Scorpio on September 22nd. Scorpio, Mars just crossed into Libra in your 12th house, okay? So Mars is the influencer over our action, our drive, that's our aggression, that is our courage, that is the strength that we have, that's the confidence that we have, okay? So with Mars crossing into Libra, right, our actions, our behaviors, our drive needs to kind of center around fair, diplomatic behaviors, helpful behaviors, peaceful behaviors, okay? So for you, this is within your realm of your subconscious mind and your imagination, right? How your mind and your imagination influences you to behave, right? It's very important. Okay, so remember that as we go through these aspects, okay? Fair, diplomatic behaviors, pay attention to that as it relates to how your imagination is impacting you. because that's what Mars is working on. All right. So Mars is going to be talking to Uranus on the 8th of August. And Uranus just crossed into Gemini in your 8th house. All right. Uranus is the ruler over sudden change for us. Uranus is the ruler over our uniqueness and our independence. All right. And Uranus is going to be assisting Mars by bringing understanding around your curiosity, your flexibility of mind, or your shallowness within how you transform, how you transition, how you move on, because that's your 8th house. Or it could be the past for you as well. Shared resources as well. All right. On August 9th, Saturn and Neptune are in retrograde together on top of each other in your 6th house of Aries. Okay. So Saturn is the ruler over our karma, cause and effect. This is our structure, responsibility, our dedication, our discipline, our restriction. Okay. And Neptune is the ruler over our imagination, our sensitivity. Both Saturn and Neptune are going to be working together because they're in retrograde to bring lessons around how our imagination impacts us in our daily life or our daily routines, how assertive we are, or how impatient we are, or how impulsive we are within that realm of life. It's going to be talking to Mars. So again, fair, peaceful, diplomatic behaviors. All right. That's what we concentrating on. All right. And again, you might see energy that pops up from like April because again, Saturn and Neptune are in retrograde and that was where they were last in these degrees. All right. So next we have Mars having a conversation with Pluto on the 8th. All right. And Pluto is in Aquarius also in retrograde. So you're seeing some sort of change already, right? Happening around your home, happening around your privacy, your literal home, right? Or your home within. This could be for you, your upbringing. This could be around your family as well, your past. Okay. So with Pluto, Pluto is the ruler over your transformations and your transitions. All right. How you change, how you morph. All right. And Pluto will be assisting by bringing understanding around your originality or your rebellion within your home. All right. This is your 4th house. So this is again, your upbringing, your past. All right. All that good stuff, your family, your actual home. All right. Even your sense of comfortability. Okay. On August 15th through 18th, 15th and 18th, but I'm going to say 15th through 18th, Mercury will have just left retrograde on the 11th. All right. So Mercury is going to spin in place for a little hot second, and then Mercury is going to take off, which is why there are 2 conversations that Mercury is having with Mars in the matter of a few days. All right. So Mercury is in your 10th house of Leo. Mercury is the ruler over your mind, how you observe, how you take in information. All right. And Mercury is going to be assisting Mars by bringing opportunities around your charisma, your courage, or your arrogance within your ambitions, goal, or career. All right. And again, this is going to be from the 15th through the 18th. Okay. And then Mars is going to be talking with Jupiter on September 5th. Jupiter is in Cancer, so this is square energy, is going to be difficult energy, right? This energy specifically is probably going to be like a trigger or of some sort, okay? So on September 5th, all right, Jupiter and Mars will have a conversation. Jupiter is the ruler of our development, our expansion. All right. And Jupiter will be assisting by bringing difficulties, right, as it relates to your perspectiveness or your moodiness within your exploration or discovery. All right. So this for you could be, a second life partner. This for you could be higher education, law, ethics, cultural learning, spirituality, religion. Okay. And then last but not least, Mars is going to be talking to Venus on September 16th. And this will be the last conversation Mars has with any planet in the realm of Libra. All right. So Mars is talking to Venus, and Venus is the ruler over our appreciation. Venus is the ruler over our harmony, right? So Venus is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance, your courage within your ambitions or your goals or your careers, because Venus will be in the same house that Mercury was just in. So Venus is going to try to bring peace. And again, Venus rules Libra. So this is why we say our actions need to lean more towards peaceful, fair, diplomatic behavior. And then after Mars has that conversation with Venus, Mars is going to progress through Libra and enter into Scorpio on September 22nd, and that'll be another conversation. Okay. Sagittarius, Mars just crossed into your 11th house of Libra. All right, so Mars is the influencer over our action and our drive. Mars influences our desire, our adventure, our courage, our strength that we have. It influences the confidence that we have as well, right? So with Mars crossing into Libra, right, this really speaks to our behaviors leaning more towards fair, diplomatic, helpful, or peaceful behaviors, maybe less towards indifference. All right, so with Mars crossing into Libra in your 11th house, Mars will be working on your diplomatic or indifferent behavior as it relates to your community or your social nature. All right, so remember that as we're talking about this, peaceful diplomatic behaviors. That's the underlying energy of this video, okay? So now Mars on August 8th will be talking to Uranus in your 7th house of Gemini. All right. And Uranus is the influencer over sudden change, how independent we are, how we rebel. All right. And Uranus is going to be assisting Mars by bringing you understanding around your curiosity, your shallowness within your partnerships or your deep bonds, your long-term relationships. This could be enemies for you as well. And then on August 9th, Mars is going to be talking to Saturn and Neptune, which both are in retrograde in your 5th house of Aries. Okay, so Saturn is the ruler of our karma, cause and effect, structure, responsibility, discipline. Okay, and Neptune is the ruler of our imagination and our subconscious, illusion, delusion, confusion, right? So both Saturn and Neptune being in retrograde in Aries in the 5th house, they are going to be bringing you lessons around balance within your assertiveness or your impatience or your impulsive behaviors, around your self-expression, around your entertainment, your hobbies. This could be small children for you, casual dating, casual sex, okay? And then on August 10th, right, Mars is going to be talking to Pluto, which is also in retrograde. You see, retrograde, retrograde, retrograde. All right, Pluto is also in retrograde, okay? And that is in your 3rd house of Aquarius. Pluto is the ruler of our transitions and our transformation, okay? So there's already a change as it relates to your mind and how you are processing things, how you are taking in information, your logic, your humor. All right, this also could be social media as well, the internet, right? So Pluto is going to be assisting Mars by bringing understanding around like your originality or your rebellion within your mind, communication, logic, understanding, or observation, okay? And then on August 15th, through the 18th, Mercury will have just left retrograde on the 11th, right? So Mercury will spin in place for a little hot second, and then it'll take off, right? Which is why there are 2 different conversations that Mercury is going to have with Mars, all right? And this is going to be in your 9th house of Leo, all right? So Mercury is the ruler of our mind, our observation, our communication, our intellect, all right? So there's heavy emphasis for you, Sagittarius, around how you are processing things, what you see and how you process that, right? And then how you act. Mars, again, diplomatic, fair behavior, okay? So with Mercury in this 9th house of Leo, Mercury is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance and ego within your exploration or discovery. This for you could be a second life partner. This for you could be law, ethics, higher education, cultural learning. This could be religion, spirituality, all right? long distance travel, right? Mercury and Mars are going to be working on that area of life for you. And then next we have on September 5th, there is going to be square energy with Jupiter. All right. So Jupiter and Mars are not speaking the same language. All right. So this difficult energy speaks of triggers. You're not really knowing what to do or how to handle something, right? Because you're going to be pulled in two weird different directions. All right. So on the 5th, Jupiter is the ruler of our development and our expansion. Okay. So Jupiter will be assisting by bringing difficulties around your perceptiveness or your moodiness within how you transition, how you transform. So there's something here that is going to be triggering to you as it relates to like you trying to move on away from something or you trying to move on towards something, right? And again, what are we supposed to be working on? Right. Fair, diplomatic, helpful behaviors. Yes. Okay. And then last but not least, we have Venus and Mars having a conversation on September 16th. This is the last conversation of Mars in Libra. And Venus is the ruler of peace, love, beauty, attraction, appreciation, harmony, relationships. All right. Venus rules that. And Venus is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or your arrogance within how you explore or discover. So Venus is going to be in the same realm Mercury was just in. All right, we just talked about it. Mercury was just in that realm, you know, higher education, second life partner, yada, 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 bop, bop, bop. Right, so Venus is now going to try to bring peace. Okay, and then after Mars has the conversation with Venus, Mars is going to truck along through Libra and transition into Scorpio on September 22nd. And that'll be a different conversation. Capricorn, Mars is going to be crossing in your 10th house of Libra. All right. So Mars is the ruler over your action drive. This is your courage, your desire, your ways of adventure, the strength you have, your aggression, your confidence. Okay. And with Mars crossing into Libra, okay, this means that we need to concentrate on having more fair, diplomatic, helpful behaviors, peaceful behaviors as it relates to, you know, all of the things I just mentioned. All right. And with Mars crossing into your 10th house, right, Mars is going to be working on your fair, diplomatic, helpful, peaceful behaviors within your ambitions and your goals. Okay. So remember that as I go through these different aspects. So on August 8th, Mars is going to be talking to Uranus in your 6th house. Uranus is the ruler of sudden change, independence, right? And Uranus is going to be assisting by bringing understanding around your curiosity or your shallowness, your flexibility within your daily routines, your daily habits, your daily life. Okay. On August 9th, Mars is going to be talking with Saturn and Neptune. Both Saturn and Neptune are in retrograde on top of one another in your 4th house of Aries. Saturn is the ruler of our karma, cause and effect. Saturn influences our structure, our responsibility, our discipline, our restriction. Okay, Neptune influences our imagination, our subconscious, our illusion, delusion, confusion. So both of these planets together in retrograde in your 4th house bring lessons around the balance within your assertiveness, your impatience, or your impulsiveness around your home, your internal security, your privacy, your upbringing, your past, or your family. Okay. And then the next aspect we have is on August 10th, where Mars is having a conversation with Pluto. All right. So Pluto is in Aquarius, also in retrograde. Okay. In your 2nd house. Pluto is the ruler of our transformations, our transitions. So you should already see a change happening around your resources, your material values, your self-worth. This could be your appetite for pleasure or food, your lending and borrowing. Okay, you should already see that. So Mars is helping Pluto actually by assisting and bringing understanding around your originality, like how you switch up, how you rebel, right? How unique you are, how you see things within your values, your material values, your resources, your self-worth, your lending and borrowing, okay? And then on August 15th through 18th, Mercury will be having a conversation with Mars. All right. Now, Mercury will have just left retrograde on the 11th. All right. Which is why this is two conversations. Mercury will spin in place and then take off. Right. So Mercury will be spinning in place as Mars passes Mercury, and then Mercury will pass Mars once it starts going at its normal pace. Right. So this will happen over the course of 3 days. Mercury is in your 8th house, and Mercury is the ruler of your mind, how you observe, how you take in information, your perspective. And Mercury is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma, your arrogance within how you transform, how you transition, how you move on. Okay. So again, the reminder here is fair, helpful, diplomatic, peaceful behavior. Yeah. All right. So next we have square energy. All right. So this is Jupiter talking to Mars. Now, Jupiter is in Cancer. Okay. Jupiter is in Cancer, and that energy doesn't really mesh with Libra energy. Okay. That's why this is square. Jupiter and Mars are not really having the same type of conversation. You ever talk to somebody and they not comprehending what you're saying and you not comprehending what they saying? That's what's happening between Jupiter and Mars. Okay. So Jupiter is the ruler of our development and how we grow. All right. And Jupiter is going to be assisting by bringing difficulties around your perceptiveness or your moodiness within your partnerships, your relationships, your deep bonds. This could be your enemy, business contracts, legal contracts. All right. So this is like a triggering type of energy. It's not a peaceful energy. So this is again where you have to lean into, even though it might not feel like you want to be peaceful, lean into being peaceful and harmonious within your behaviors. Okay. And then last but not least, we have Mars talking to Venus. All right. And Venus will have crossed into that 8th house as well, where Mercury just was. Venus is the ruler of our appreciation, our harmony. Okay. Venus rules Libra. Okay. So that's why harmony, harmonious behaviors. So Venus is going to be talking with Mars from that 6th house, and Venus is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma again, or arrogance within how you transform. So Venus is going to try to bring peace here. And after Mars talks to Venus, all right, Mars is not going to have any other conversations with any of the other planets, and Mars is going to transition into Scorpio on August 22nd, and that will be a separate conversation. Aquarius, you are one of the signs that's actually more impacted by this Mars transitioning into Libra. Okay, so Mars has transitioned into Libra in your 9th house. Mars is the ruler of our action and our drive. Mars rules over our aggression, our passion, our courage, the strength that we have, the confidence that we have. Okay, and with Mars crossing into Libra, Mars is going to concentrate more so on fair, diplomatic, helpful, harmonious behavior. Okay. And this is all going to be within your exploration and discovery. And what I mean by that, this might be a second life partner for you. This might be long-term travel. This might be religion, spirituality, ethics, law, cultural learning. All right. So all of that is encompassed by your exploration and discovery. So remember that. Peaceful, harmonious, fair, diplomatic behaviors, right, as it relates to exploration and discovery for you. Remember that as we are talking through these aspects. All right. On August 8th, Mars is going to be talking to Uranus in your 5th house of Gemini. Okay. Uranus just crossed into your 5th house of Gemini. So there's some sort of change that's happening in your 5th house. Uranus influences our sudden changes. Uranus influences our independence, our rebellion, how unique we are, right? So Uranus will be assisting by bringing understanding around your curiosity, your flexibility, or your shallowness within your self-expression or your entertainment. This could be hobbies for you. This is casual dating, casual sex. This is children. This is entrepreneurship as well. All right. And then on August 9th, both Saturn and Neptune are going to be having a conversation with Mars. Saturn and Neptune are in the realm of Aries in your third house. Okay. And again, they are both in retrograde together, right on top of each other. All right. So Saturn is the ruler of our karma, cause and effect. Saturn is the ruler of our responsibility, our restriction, our discipline, our structure. Saturn is our teacher, right? And Neptune is the ruler over our imagination, our sensitivity, our subconscious. All right. So both Saturn and Neptune are bringing back lessons that may have happened back in April right now, but also they are going to be working with Mars by assisting in bringing a balance around your assertiveness or your impatience or your impulsiveness within how you take in information, within your mind, within your communication, within your observation or your perspective. Okay, that's your third house. All right. And then on August 10th, Mars is going to be talking to Pluto in your first house of Aquarius. Okay. So this is why this is important for you. Pluto crossed into your first house in 2024. All right. So there's already a change happening as it relates to either your physical appearance. This is your mask that you wear, present to the world. This is your attitude. This is your soul's purpose, right? This is your appearance, right? This is yourself, your identity. You're already seeing a change, right? Pluto is the most outer moving planet, and Pluto is going to be in your house until 2044. Okay, in your first house. All right, so there's an emphasis here on a change happening within yourself. So really, Mars is going to be helping Pluto, right, by assisting and bringing understanding around your originality or how you rebel around your uniqueness within your identity or within yourself, your attitude, your focus, your ego, your soul's purpose. Okay, and then on August 15th, and 18th, so 15th through 18th, really, Mars is going to be communicating with Mercury. And the reason why this is twice is because Mercury will have left retrograde on the 11th. So Mercury will spin in place for a while, and then it'll take off. Mercury is the fastest moving planet, right? So Mercury is going to be in a slow spin in place for a hot second. Mars is going to pass Mercury, or I don't want to say Mars is going to pass Mercury. Mars is going to pass the point in which there is an aspect, and then Mercury is going to take off. And then Mercury is going to pass Mars and have another aspect, okay? So Mercury is the ruler of our mind, our observation, how we take in information, our logic, how we communicate, all right? And Mercury is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around our charisma, our courage, or our arrogance, ego, pride within our long-term relationships, our partnerships, our deep bonds, okay? This could be marriages. This could be business contracts. This could be legal contracts. All right. And then on September 5th, okay, Mars is going to talk to Jupiter in Cancer in your sixth house. What? In your sixth house. Now, Libra, Cancer energy don't mesh like that. All right. This is square energy. This is a more difficult energy. So Mars and Jupiter are not speaking the same language. Okay. So Jupiter is the ruler over your development and your growth. All right. So Jupiter is going to be assisting by bringing difficulties around your perceptiveness or your moodiness within your daily life habits or routines. Right. There is something here that is going to trigger you. So on September 5th, Jupiter is going to bring in energy that is going to require you to kind of like figure out your triggers, okay? So this is kind of like your body is going to want to act in one way. However, what is Mars doing? We are leaning into where? Diplomatic, helpful behaviors, harmonious behaviors, right? But you're not going to want to be harmonious in this moment, but you're going to have to try to be, Okay, that's essentially what that is saying. And then last but not least, Mars will talk to Venus on September 16th. And this is the last planet Mars talks to. Venus rules over Libra. Okay, and Mars is in the realm of Libra. So this is a pleasant conversation. This is a conversation that is happening in your 7th house as well, where Mercury was just sitting. Okay, so Venus is the ruler over appreciation, harmony, peace, love, abundance, which is why Mars in Libra requires us to have those harmonious behaviors. Okay, now Venus is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or arrogance again, okay, within your partnerships or your deep bonds, but this will probably be a little bit more of a positive vibe. All right. And then after Mars has a conversation with Venus, okay, Mars is going to go on its way through Libra and cross into Scorpio on September 22nd, and that's going to be a different conversation, okay? Pisces, Mars has crossed into Libra in your 4th house. All right, so Mars is the influencer over our action and our drive. All right, this is our aggression, this is our passion, this is our courage, this is our strength, this is the confidence that we have, this is our adventurous nature. And with Mars crossing into Libra, we need to more so concentrate on diplomatic, fair, harmonious, helpful behavior. All right, that is the point here. Diplomatic, fair, harmonious, helpful behaviors. All right, and this is going to be in the realm of your transitions and transformations. That is very vague and general, but for you Pisces, there is something here that you are moving on from, that you need to transition from, right? And your behavior needs to be concentrated on what? Fair, diplomatic, helpful, harmonious behaviors as you transition. All right, so remember that as we go through these aspects. All right, on August 8th, Mars is going to be having a conversation with Uranus in Gemini in your 4th house. Uranus rules over sudden change for you. Uranus just crossed into Gemini this year. All right. So this is your independence. This is your rebellious nature. All right. So Uranus is going to be assisting by bringing understanding around your curiosity or your shallowness within your home or your upbringing, your past, your roots, your literal home, right? Your sense of security, your privacy. Okay. And then on August 9th, Mars is going to be communicating with Saturn and Neptune in Aries in your 2nd house. Now, both Saturn and Neptune are in retrograde, okay? On top of each other, on top of that, right? So they're in conjunction with one another. Saturn is the ruler of your karma. This is cause and effect. Saturn is the influencer over our structure, our restriction, our lessons, our responsibility, our discipline, okay? And Neptune is the ruler over our imagination and our subconscious, our illusion, delusion, confusion. All right. So both Saturn and Neptune in retrograde are already bringing in energy, probably back from April when they were first in these degrees that they're in retrograde in now. But also they are going to be working with Mars by assisting you in bringing a balance around your assertiveness, your impatience, your impulsivity within your resources or your values. This for you could be lending and borrowing. This is your finances. This is your appetite for pleasure or food. This is your self-worth, okay? So this is lessons around that for you. And Saturn and Neptune have been sending you these lessons, okay? And then on August 10th, Mars is going to be talking to Pluto in your 12th house of Aquarius. Pluto is also in retrograde, all right? And Pluto is the ruler over how we transform, how we transition, all right? So Pluto influences that. And Pluto will be assisting Mars by bringing understanding within your originality or how you rebel. And Pluto is going to be assisting Mars by bringing understanding around your originality or rebellion within your subconscious or your imagination. So this is how your mind, your illusion, delusion, confusion impacts you as you move on, right? And again, what are we concentrating on? Harmonious, helpful, diplomatic, fair behavior, right? So again, these are opportunities for us to show up that way, okay? And then next, we have Mars talking to Mercury twice. All right, Mercury will have just left retrograde on the 11th, right? So on the 15th, Mars is going to have a conversation with Mercury. And then on the 18th, Mars is going to have another conversation with Mercury. Mercury is going to be spinning in place a little bit on the 15th, and Mercury is the fastest moving planet. Mercury is going to take off and pass Mars a second time on the 18th, right? So Mercury is the influence of how we take in information. It's our observation. This is how we communicate. This is our mind. All right. So Mercury is going to be assisting by bringing opportunities around your charisma or how arrogant you are, how you, live in your pride or ego within your daily routines, your daily habits, or your daily life. All right. So this is like, again, this could also be your pets as well. These are things that you do on a daily basis consistently. All right. And then next we have a little bit more of a difficult energy. Okay. Jupiter is in Cancer, and Jupiter is going to be having a conversation with Mars on September 5th. All right. So with Jupiter being in Cancer and Mars being in Libra, that is not necessarily compatible energies. So basically Mars and Jupiter are having different conversations, like they're not comprehending what each other is saying. All right. So with this energy, Jupiter is the ruler over our development and our growth. Okay. So Jupiter will be assisting, right, by bringing difficulties around your perceptiveness or your moodiness, right, within your self-expression, how you express yourself, your entertainment. This could be your dating life, children, casual sex. All right. This is your hobbies. This is entrepreneurship, but this is more of like a trigger. All right. And again, the idea, right, is we lean more towards diplomatic, fair, helpful, harmonious behaviors. Although on or around September 5th, it might be a little bit difficult for you to be that way, right? That's what the square energy is saying. It's going to be hard. You're going to be a little triggered, okay? And then last but not least, we have Venus, okay? Mars talks to Venus on September 16th, all right? And Venus is the ruler of Libra, okay? Venus is the ruler of an influence of our appreciation, our harmony, our love, peace, beauty, art, right? This is our creativity. These are our relationships, okay? And Venus is going to be assisting Mars by bringing opportunities similar to Mercury around your mind, right? This is opportunities for peace, within your charisma or, you know, your pride or ego around your daily routines and habits again. Okay. And then once Mars has this conversation with Venus on the 16th, Mars will continue through Libra and cross into Scorpio on September 22nd. And then we'll have another conversation when that day comes. All right.